That puts that dead on. And then we'll bump this about half a tooth frontwards. And that'll take care of that. Now then, that should put everything right where we want it here. Let's run it down, look at it. All right, now we've got the program, we got it up and running. I need to do a little preventive maintenance. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little 50/50 to my ink. That's a pH adjuster and water, 50% of each. I'm gonna squirt it in. I use a squirt bottle. This way it penetrates the ink, but I don't want to splash the sides. As I squirt it in, I'll probably hit a capful in there, and I'm gonna stir it up evenly, check my ink flow, make sure I have enough ink in the pans, and overall look at everything while it's running. We're running about 250 foot a minute. I would suspect that I'm gonna have foam and stuff of that nature, so I need to maintain my ink starting right now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squirt the ink, the 50/50, into the area where it's gonna grab it and pull it. That makes it a lot easier to mix up. That's about a cowful. Now as I'm stirring this, I can see I may be a little bit low. So I'll probably come back and put more ink in there. Same thing here. Hitting it into key spots. Stir it up. I think that ink's a little low. Okay, I'm seeing some foam already in this blue ink. You see that foam? That tells me I need some defoamer. Same thing, I'm gonna take the defoamer, I'm gonna shake it up though, and I'm just gonna spray it in there by the edges of my rollers. Then I'm gonna hit it with my 50/50, and I don't put a whole lot in there, just enough to maintain. Stir it up. I'm not sloshing, I'm stirring. Clean it up against there. Same thing. A little bit here. Don't see no foam. Stir it up. Every ink I'm going to hit with because we just got up and running smoothly. Now I think I need to go through and add a little ink to everything. Wilson, go ahead and pop your inks off. Okay, we've just run out of paper on the unwind roll. We're going to change over to a new roll and make a splice. The first thing I'll do is bring down my hold down clamp. Hold down the paper so it doesn't move. I'll cut my paper at my first cut mark on the splicing table, which ensures a lip so when I overlap it, I can cut it even to fit in place. Going to remove my cores, my excess paper. Going to put my new roll onto the unwind mandle, center it, cut my core on, my core holder on. I'll take a wrap off from around the roll to ensure I get all the dirt that may have collected on the roll. Pull it off, overlay it, make sure everything's good and even. Then I'll bring down my second hold down bar. Holding both ends of where my splice line is,
I'll hold them good and tight with my finger, insert the knife in the cutting line, and I'll come across to make a good and even cut that fits good and tight in place. Raise the first front end, pull my tape, bring down my stock on both ends, make sure it fits good, tight, and even. You notice I've brought twice the tape I need to go over so I can fold it back over, center it, lay it flat. With my knife, I'll cut off excess tape on both ends. Raise my hold down bars. I'm ready to run my paper through the press. This is a Web Techniques rewind table. It's used to take the master rolls from the press, put them on here, and be able to rewind them in the desired roll that the customer wants to go out the door. Take, for instance, this roll we have may have come off the end of the press, but the customer themselves only wants 1,000 labels per roll on the rolls going out the door. By setting this machine up and putting the master roll here, we can program our counter to give us 1,000 labels per roll. The way this thing works, we've got an unwind portion here. You put the master roll on, lock it in place. Show you how this works. It has a handle that turns, and as you turn, it has a lockdown built in the core mandle here that'll grip the core and lock it to the mandle. You can see I can just slip it over into place, and then when I turn my handle counterclockwise, it locks the roll itself into position, which allows this to control the tension, how tight of a pull we have as it wraps up. To increase my tension on this unwind, if I turn it in a clockwise position, it makes it tighter. If I turn it in a counterclockwise position, it makes it looser. You can see the webbing of this machine. It goes from the unwind mandle over an idler roll and then over a second idler roll here that is built in your counter. Then it's wound up on another rewind mandle, which will allow it to put the specified labels per roll. To determine how many labels we get per roll, we will look in our job jacket, and it usually specifies from the information that comes from the customer. Let's take, for example, we're taking this label and we're rewinding it into 1,000 labels per roll. First of all, we would have to know our repeat. I've already measured my repeat from one label to the next label. With the gap, we'll measure a repeat of 3 7/8 of an inch. This rewind table itself counts in a repeat of 10 inches. So that tells us that every time this roller rolls a length of 10 inches, it's going to change it on my counter here. So in figuring my count for here, I know if I've got 1,000 labels with a repeat of 3.875, if I do my math, it tells me that the count I need to insert in my counter would be 388. So what I'm going to do is enter my count by going to Pre-A and mashing the button. You'll see Pre-A come up and a number. Once the number comes up, it allows me to adjust this count to the specified count I want. I want 388, so if I go to this very first digit over here and go to the button up underneath it, as I mash, each time I mash it, the number will change. 388, when I get to the 8, I'll go to the next column, bring it to the number I want, and same with the third column. Okay, 388 is my count, but I've still got numbers in these columns, so what I want to do is just change them until they zero out. Once they zero out, and I see my desired count of 388, I'll mash an enter button here. As I mash enter, it enters the count, and then it goes back to the previous count. If there's a previous count, I can mash it again and it zeroes out. Now I'm ready to produce. Okay, this is our control panel. As you can see, we've got a power on and off button that cuts the machine on and off. We've got an idle speed that decreases it and increases it. And we've also got a section here that has rewind direction of whether we can wind our material and product on the outside of the label. And to show you how it's doing, you can see as I hit my start button, it winds it on the outside. Well, if I stop the press and I reverse my rewind direction, can hit my start button and it winds it on the inside of the press, inside of the label. The reason for this is for the different rewind directions. Sometimes customers want the label on the outside of the core. Sometimes they want them on the inside of the core. So this control here allows you to change the direction on whether the product will be wound up on the inside or the outside of the roll. We have an emergency stop and a stop button here. If we need to stop to make splices or to pull out bad products, we can hit that. We have a start button when we finish splicing and ready to start back, we can hit it. And then we've got a speed control that allows us how fast the material or how fast the machine will run.
Now you see I've come to a red flag in my product. I've stopped the press because this detects that there's bad product in my roll somewhere. Now, as a rewinder, it is your responsibility to remove any bad product in the roll. Anything that is flagged will let you know a problem is coming up. A lot of times, pressmen may miss the problem and not flag it, and the bad product gets through to the roll. It is the rewinder's responsibility to catch that and to remove all product. Should be able to pull. I'll watch my product, find the problem, remove it, throw my waste away, make my splice.
Going to get me a piece of tape, take it across the back of my liner, lay it flat on the table, and try to position it perfectly in place. It's like fitting a piece of a puzzle together. Once I get it in place, I'll hold it good and flat. I'll cut off the excess tape from the sides.